Whether you are new to Lightroom or if you've used Lightroom previously, when you open up Lightroom 3, you won't have any photographs in it. So one of the first steps, and one of the most important steps, is to import our photographs. What we're going to do here is take a look at the import dialog. Let's go ahead and open up the import dialog, and to do so, we need to be in the library module. You can click on the word library here in the module picker up top. Next, we can either select or click the import button, or navigate to the file pull-down menu and choose import photos. And of course, there's also a shortcut. This is one of those shortcuts you want to jot down because you'll find that you're going to import photos all the time. And the shortcut on a Mac is Shift-Command-I. On a PC, that's Shift-Control-I. Alright, well, whatever your preference, go ahead and open up the Import Photos dialog. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice is that this dialog looks a lot like Lightroom. Now, it's not only visually similar to Lightroom, it's also functionally similar. Let me explain. Over here on the left-hand side, we have panels, just like we have in Lightroom. We can open and close these panels in the same way. On the right-hand side, same thing. We have different panels that we can open and close. The other thing that you're going to notice about this dialog is that the flow is left to right. We start over here by selecting a source, and then we apply some options, or we choose some options here up top. We maybe select some images we want to import, and then finally, we determine where we're going to import those files to, and perhaps apply a few settings as well. All right, well, let's take a look at this overall flow from left to right. Let's start over here on the left and open up our source panel. Now in the source panel, I currently have two options. I have one internal drive, which is located in the desktop that I'm working from. I also have an external drive. In this case, it's a Drobo S drive. And this is the drive that I use for all of my photographs because it's a RAID drive. In other words, this drive is really fast and it's really reliable. So in this particular case, I have my exercise files folder on my Drobo. And what I want to do is click on this folder here. Now when I click on that, it recognizes the drive, even brings in a little icon, and says, hey, these are the files. Well, I have a couple of options. One of the options is to either view all of the images in this folder, in this case include subfolders, which is really nice because rather than having to click on one of these folders or all of them, I can simply choose include subfolders, or if I want to select just a single folder, I would just turn this option off and then click on a single folder. So use whatever preference makes sense in your own workflow. All right, well, our next option has to do with how we decide to handle the files. We have four options. The first option is copy as DNG. And what this option means is that we can take the files and create a duplicate version of every little file and then convert it to DNG. Or we can select copy. In this case, we'll just take a duplicate version of the files and then put them in a new location. Or we can choose move. What move will do is say, hey, take all these files, put them in a new spot. Or finally, we can choose add. Now when we choose add, what it does is it says, hey, you know what? I like where the files are. I like how the files are organized. I like how the files are named, etc. I just want to add them to my Lightroom library. All right, well, once we've made our selection up top in regards to handle the files, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what files we actually want to import. So we can scroll through all of these files. You'll notice that there's a wide range of images. And let's say that we get to a particular file and we're not sure if we want to import it. What we may want to do is click on that file to highlight it. You can see that file is now highlighted gray. Let's say we want a little bit of a larger view of this image. What we could do in that particular case is we can navigate to a view which is called the Loop View Mode. This is the same view that we have inside of the library module. You can access this view a couple of different ways. One way that you can do this really simply is by clicking on the Loop View icon. This will give us this larger preview of this photograph of my daughter Annika here. And let's say at this point I decide this image is a keeper. I do want to include this in the import, so I leave that checkbox turned on. Well, if I want to navigate back to the grid view mode, which was the view we had previously, I can either click on this icon here, or I can use a shortcut key. The shortcut keys to navigate between grid and loop are as follows. The shortcut for the loop view is the E key. The shortcut to go back to the grid, well, that's the G key. Well, another way that we can navigate between those two views is by double-clicking. If I double-click on an image, it will get larger. Double-click again, it will get smaller. Now we can of course make selections here as well. If we don't want to import an image, all we need to do is simply click off the checkbox. If we do want to import it, we click on the checkbox. Well, now that we've decided which images we want to import, we've decided how we want to handle them, let's go over here to the right-hand side. We're going to import all of these images into our current catalog, and we have a couple of options. In regards to file handling, we can choose a few different render previews. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the next movie because this option is actually pretty important. We can also turn on the option to not import suspected duplicates. Now that's important, otherwise our library can get a little bit convoluted and confused. Definitely a good idea to turn that option on. Now if we were importing photos from a compact flash card, it would be essential to turn this option on. In other words, when we import from a compact flash card, what we're going to do is we're going to copy our files to a hard drive. In my case, I copy all of my photos to my Drobo drive, and then I also make a second copy to another external hard drive. That way, upon import, I at least have these images in two different locations. Well, digging into the next panel here, apply during import, we can apply some presets, some metadata, and some keywords. All right, well, now that we've been introduced to the import dialog, let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper, and let's dig into catalog preferences, importing, and also our render previews option. And let's go ahead and do that in the next movie.